I'm Stephen Coates, welcome to my studio. Now in my view, one of the best ways to practice watercolours and improve skills is to have a go at a really straightforward scene and complete it in just a few minutes. We can all get a little bit obsessed with detail, I'm sure you'll agree. So it is often better to just focus on colour, light and form. This will encourage faster, energetic brush strokes and result in a much looser and more impressionistic result. Let's have a go at some examples. Well, today I want to show you another coastal scene. This is a 5 or 10 minute watercolour study. I've got a piece of Bockingford cold pressed watercolour paper down here, just A4 size. I've drawn a horizon across, drawn this distant landmass here and a little hint of some coast here. So there's going to be a beach here and the sea, and we're going to make this nice and simple. So I'm using just 3 colours, ultramarine and burnt sienna, and this is a mix of ultramarine and burnt sienna which gives us a grey colour, and that's mixed on the palette quite thick. So I'm going to start using the Mini Hake. This is a goat hair brush with a metal ferrule, and I'm going to fill this up with water. So it's swollen, plenty of water on there. I'm going to do this one in a vignette style. So I'm not going to wet the whole of the paper, I'm just going to wet this sort of patch of paper up here, leaving the edges dry. And then quite simply, I'm going to pick up some ultramarine from the palette. This is just a case of sticking the brush into the paint straight from the tube, giving it a little shuffle, putting some of the blue into the brush. And then I want some white areas and I want some blue areas as well. So if I put a few blue bits in like this, the white areas will look like clouds. Okay, I'm going to just drag that gently down onto that distant landmass there. Now the water on the paper should keep moving and keep settling that, and those white clouds should soften and emerge. It's probably about the simplest watercolour sky that you could do. So I'm going to leave that for a couple of minutes to settle off and develop, and then put the hairdryer on it to dry it out. Okay, that's dried off nicely now. The sky's developed and I'm quite pleased with that. So I've now got a number 10 spearhead brush. This is the Stephen Coates spearhead made by ProArty. This has got a lovely soft hair and a nice sharp point, but it's got a big volume so it'll hold lots of paint. So I'm just going to wet it. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm just going to pull that first through here, which will just represent an area of beach. And that's all that's required there. I haven't wet the paper at all here. So I'm going to use this dry paper now to create some really lovely white sparkling effects and the impression of some waves. So I've just washed the brush. I'm going to put the brush into the ultramarine, and I'm going to pull the brush across first of all, across that horizon, like that. And then I'm going to basically just drag the brush down from here, like this, and leaving these lovely areas of white all the way down here. So that looks like some waves coming in onto the beach, and it's as simple as that. I'm not going to do any more than that. It's really effective and looks really genuine. So I've just dried that off with the hairdryer, and I'm going to create this distant landmass. So I'm going to use some burnt sienna and some of this grey mix on the palette here, and I'm going to just fill the brush with water first and some of the burnt sienna, and I'm going to quickly fill the whole area of that landmass with some really quite loose burnt sienna, like that. And then I'm going to go straight to the grey mix, and we're going to just drop some of that into the top. You can see how the paint is bleeding down into the burnt sienna that I've just put on. Now if you just leave that paint to run by itself, it might look a little bit feathery. So I'm now going to use the brush to just sort of pull the paint down like this and leave a few areas of the burnt sienna shining through, and that'll just look like there's some light catching the landmass in places. And if I just tip the brush, put the tip of the brush into the grey mix now just a little bit more, I can just maybe just drop a touch more in here and there, like that. Just leave that to sort of bleed into what I've already put on, and that will create some more areas of shadow and contrast. So I haven't dried that off. I'm not going to touch that again. I might as well just leave that to settle. So I'm now going to just create a shoreline here. So again, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Use some burnt sienna, and we'll just patch this in here. And I'm going to leave some white, deliberately leave some white bits in this, and we'll put a little bit of the grey in there along the bottom, just to give that a little definition along the edge of the beach. It's a little scribble with the brush, and it just allows it to blend into that burnt sienna. Just give that if I give that a little scribble there where that C is, it'll just get rid of that mark there. So there's a little bit of the shore into the, wash the brush into the burnt sienna again, and this time I'm going to drag this down across the foreground. So I'm going to keep filling the brush up with paint, and then when I get to here again, I want it to be a vignette style. I'm going to just drag the paint down like this, and a little bit of the grey as well, and we'll just blend some of that in as well. Just a touch more. I'll just strengthen it a little bit here and there. So I'm not painting anything specific here. I'm just creating the impression of maybe some rocks and a little bit of rough shoreline in front of the area of the beach. Okay, that's dried off, and I'm going to add just a few details now. I've got a spearhead number 6, and I'm going to make it look as if there are some rocks here and there as part of this landmass structure in the foreground. I'm not going to overdo it because it's just an impression. We'll turn that into a little rock on the top of there, like that. We'll just have a few more coming down here. It's quite difficult to do this randomly. They need to be sort of spaced randomly rather than clustered in, evenly spaced out. And I'm just going to use a rigger to put a few markings in there as well, and maybe a couple just down here on the beach. Just really just using the tip of the rigger to produce a few lines and marks on the beach. Let's have a couple of people standing down here on the beach. Tiny little carrots. We'll just make them look as if they're enjoying themselves down on the beach. There we are, little carrots with a little dot. And I'm sure they've got kids with them. There they are. And why not a couple of seagulls to finish off. I'm just going to put a little shadow on the feet of those people down there. So that's it. A very simple seashore scene, very effective, and very often you'll find that the quicker you do these things, the more energetic the brush strokes are, and the more impressionistically you do it, the better the paintings are. And as ever, I'm going to pop a mount on that, which always finishes it off and makes it look like a really lovely little watercolour study. So I hope you have fun having a go at that, and please do join me again on another of my 10-minute watercolour videos. Please remember all these products are available online from online stores and my own website.